want you to imagine, just for a second, a scenario where you are entirely, completely underestimated by just absolutely everyone around you.
Oh, man. That sounds frustrating already.
Right. I'm talking about being viewed as like weak, primitive, and just almost totally irrelevant to the broader world.
Yeah, just completely written off.
Exactly. Now, I want you to imagine carrying that label, like willingly letting people believe that about you, not just for a day or a year, but for 3,000 years.
Wow. 3 millennia of just playing dumb.
Yeah. How long could you actually keep a secret like that? Especially if, the literal survival of reality depended on it.
I mean, it's an incredible thought experiment. The sheer psychological weight of maintaining that kind of facade is just staggering.
Oh, for sure.
Because, most of us struggle to keep a minor secret for, like, a weekend.
Guilty as charged.
Right. Let alone trying to coordinate a massive deception across millennia and hundreds of generations of people.
And that mind-bending scenario is exactly what we're getting into today. Welcome to our latest deep dive. We are taking a really close look into the epic sci-fi narrative of the human awakening.
Such a fantastic source text.
It really is. We're tracking the journey of humanity from being dismissed by the entire galaxy as the sleeping species to, well, ultimately becoming the guardians of the universe.
Yeah, the transition is just wild.
It's insane. So our mission today is to dissect the strategies, the dramatic confrontations, and the profound philosophy behind humanity's ultimate choice. Because when you look at the mechanics of what humanity was actually doing in the dark, it completely rewrites the rules of strategy.
It really does. But I think to understand the massive shock of humanity's awakening, we first have to, understand the galactic board as it was set up.
Right. Why were we perceived as so pathetic to begin with?
Exactly. Let's look at that galactic map. So for 3 millennia, the power dynamics were utterly dominated by a few absolute titans.
The big players.
The heavyweights, yeah. You have the Varkon Empire, which is this sprawling bureaucratic and industrial machine covering 10,000 star systems.
It's just massive scale.
Right. Then you have the Zolari Collective, a species whose technological mastery allows them to literally bend space for instant communication and travel.
Which is basically magic at that point.
Pretty much. And then there is the Kortha Dominion.
Ah, the course.
Yeah, the ultimate militaristic juggernaut. I mean, they operate with fleets so massive their ships actually blot out the suns of the planets they conquer.
Which is a terrifying visual. And then, way off in a forgotten little corner of the map, you have humanity.
Just hanging out.
Right, confined to this tiny little cluster of worlds around Earth. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Union looks at us and sees this harmless, sleeping species that barely managed to leave its own solar system.
Barely a blip on their radar.
Yeah, totally irrelevant. But the source material reveals that humanity hadn't actually hit a technological plateau at all.
No, not even close.
We had hit a massive philosophical roadblock instead. We essentially stumbled onto something the rest of the galaxy entirely missed.
Which is?
The ancient ruins of what is known as the first civilization.
Yes. And that discovery is the absolute pivot point for the entire narrative.
It changes everything.
It does. Because these weren't just, standard archaeological ruins. We're talking about artifacts and infrastructure that are billions of years old.
Billions.
With a B.
With a B, yeah. Possessing technology so advanced it manipulates fundamental physical laws. It literally threatens the fabric of reality itself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the critical detail here is how humanity responds to finding this.
Right. What do we do with it?
Well, they don't try to integrate it into their daily lives. They don't use it to cure disease or, build faster civilian ships.
So what do?
They bury it.
Literally bury it.
Literally.
Yeah, they hide this reality-breaking tech beneath Earth's deepest oceans. They seal it inside hollowed-out Martian mountains, and they just stash it on forgotten frozen moons.
Out of sight, out of mind. But wait, I have to ask, if this technology is so powerful it bends reality, how do you even study it without, the Zolari Collective or the Varkon noticing the massive energy spikes?
Oh, that is the logistical nightmare humanity spent their first century solving.
I can imagine.
They had to construct massive planet-scale dampening fields just to turn the machines on.
That's insane.
It is. They were working entirely in the dark, both figuratively and literally. And the underlying logic of that decision is crucial here.
Okay, lay it on me.
Humanity wasn't hiding this technology because they were terrified of the Korth Dominion or the Varkon Empire swooping in and stealing it.
Right.
They hid because they were terrified of the technology itself.
Because of what happened to the people who originally built it, right?
Precisely. The first civilization didn't mysteriously vanish. They destroyed themselves with this exact technology.
Oh man, so it's like finding a loaded gun.
Worse, humanity recognized that they were holding the ashes of gods. They understood that wielding ultimate power without ultimate restraint is essentially a suicide pact.
So they chose restraint.
Yeah. They spent 500 years studying it in total secrecy, carefully reverse engineering the principles without ever, scaling it up for public or military use.
It makes me think of, it's like a grandmaster chess player entering a local park tournament.
Oh, I like that comparison.
Right. They sit down, they intentionally make rookie moves. Maybe they even ask, like, hey, how does the knight move again?
Just totally playing the fool.
Exactly. Letting their opponent get completely overconfident and aggressive, taking pawns and swaggering around the board.
Thinking they've got an easy win.
Yeah, but in reality, the grandmaster is quietly, invisibly setting up an inescapable 5-move checkmate. They have total control of the board, but they act like they barely know the rules.
That is a perfect analogy. And, that kind of restraint requires a collective discipline that is almost alien in itself.
5 centuries of it.
Yeah, 500 years of scientists, politicians, military leaders, all agreeing to suppress their own advancement just for the sake of survival.
It's hard to imagine humans doing that today.
Oh, almost impossible. But that exact silence, that deliberate appearance of weakness, it created an entirely different problem.
A vacuum.
Exactly. It created a perceived intelligence and power vacuum. And in a galaxy filled with expansionist empires, a vacuum naturally draws the attention of predators looking for easy resources.
Which means someone is eventually going to try to take our lunch money.
Yep.
And that brings the Korth Dominion directly to Earth's doorstep.
The absolute worst-case scenario. The Korth represent classic overwhelming force.
Right, no diplomacy.
No, they don't negotiate at all. They subjugate. And they finally turn their attention to the human cluster and just arrive of thousands of warships.
They just park this massive sun-blocking armada right in our front yard, and they issue this completely arrogant ultimatum: surrender your worlds and become subjects of the Dominion.
And you have 1 hour to decide.
1 hour. And the Galactic Union, which is, supposed to be this protective governing body, they immediately fold.
Utterly useless.
Totally. They contact Earth and advise humanity to just comply, because resisting the Korth has historically resulted in entire species being glassed from orbit.
Yeah, it's the ultimate pressure test for humanity.
Do or die.
Exactly. 500 years of absolute secrecy is suddenly forced into the light. Do they maintain the facade and lose their autonomy, essentially becoming slaves?
Or do they finally reveal the hand they've been meticulously building?
Right. And this leads to one of the most incredible diplomatic standoffs I've ever
Well,
read.
the scene with Sarah Kane.
Yes. So we have Earth's representative, Ambassador Sarah Kane. She is standing in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council.
Just a tiny human surrounded by giants.
Literally. And the Korth Emperor is projecting this smug, terrifying aura, giving her the public 1-hour countdown on a massive display.
The pressure must be unimaginable.
And Kane, she just smiles back at him and simply says, no.
Wait, literally just no?
Just no.
Yeah.
And the reaction in the room tells you everything you need to know about the galactic hierarchy.
What happened?
The Emperor laughs.
Of course he does.
The entire council laughs. To them, it's an absurdity, a joke. The Emperor immediately threatens humanity with total systematic erasure.
And how does she respond to that?
Without missing a beat, Kane coolly replies, "You may try."
You may try. That is so badass. But okay, hold on. I have to question Kane's strategy here, though.
Okay, let's hear it.
Playing it cool in a movie is one thing, right? But from a practical geopolitical standpoint, is it actually smart to bait a militaristic empire that literally blots out suns?
It sounds crazy, I know.
Like, was she just bluffing to buy a few extra hours, or is there a genuine strategic advantage to triggering an emperor's ego? Because provoking him seems like a great way to guarantee your home world gets annihilated before you can even deploy your secret weapons.
I get that. It looks deeply reckless until you analyze the psychology of warfare and the specific mechanics of what humanity needed to accomplish.
Okay, unpack that for me.
Kane wasn't bluffing, and she certainly wasn't buying time. She was executing a highly calculated psychological operation.
Oh.
Yeah. By giving a blunt, almost dismissive no. She completely shattered their expectations of how a weak species behaves.
Ah, I see.
She didn't plead. She didn't try to negotiate a truce. She provoked an emotional, arrogant response rather than a tactical
So
one.
you wanted them to attack.
She needed them to commit fully. If she had shown a little bit of advanced technology, played a small card,
The Korth might have pulled back.
exactly. They might have analyzed the threat, regrouped, and engaged in a protracted, centuries-long guerrilla war.
Which would have bled humanity dry.
Right. So by playing the defiant but seemingly defenseless victim, she ensured the Korth would pour their entire vanguard fleet directly into the Sol system, expecting a quick execution.
So it was a trap.
A massive one. It was the calculated dropping of a 500-year-old mask to force a decisive single-point engagement.
Wow. And the Korth step right into it. They call what they assume is a pathetic bluff, and they just launch the invasion.
Full force.
Millions of soldiers are mobilized, Earth's standard orbital defenses are rapidly falling, and communication stations are blowing up.
Just absolute chaos on the surface.
And the entire galaxy is watching this on live broadcast, just waiting for the predictable, tragic end of a primitive species that spoke out of turn.
Yeah, the galactic community is essentially bearing witness to a public execution. The Korth fleet pushes deep into the system, expecting absolutely no meaningful resistance.
But then Earth finally plays its hand.
Oh, I love this part.
They activate Protocol Awakening, and the imagery in the source material for this sequence is absolutely breathtaking.
The descriptive writing is top tier.
We aren't just talking about, hidden hangars opening up. Underneath the oceans, massive ancient doors that have been sealed for millennia begin to grind open, literally boiling the water around them from the energy output.
So cinematic.
But the most incredible part is on Mars. The Martian mountains don't just open, they physically split apart. The terraforming infrastructure itself unfolds, revealing that the geology was hiding ships larger than entire cities.
City-sized dreadnoughts.
Yeah, we see the birth of the HFS Awakening and the HFS Defiance.
The sheer scale of the engineering required to integrate dreadnoughts into planetary tectonics is just staggering.
It's hard to wrap your head around.
It is. So when the Korth fleet enters the inner system expecting an easy victory, they instead encounter a technological nightmare that defies their understanding of physics.
It fundamentally breaks the rules of the game. It's like showing up to a medieval jousting tournament, right?
Okay.
And while your opponent is polishing his armor and lowering his wooden lance, you pull away a tarp to reveal you're sitting in an Apache helicopter.
That is exactly what it's like.
It's not just a better weapon, it's a completely different paradigm of warfare.
That's exactly how it plays out on a tactical level, too. The human ships don't just hit harder. They operate on the principles of the first civilization.
So what does that actually look like in combat?
Well, they move at impossible speeds by localized space folding.
Basically teleporting.
Yeah, short jumps. And their weapons completely ignore Korth energy shields because they manipulate fundamental forces, not just raw energy.
So the Korth shields are essentially useless.
Completely. Korth missiles and laser batteries are entirely ineffective against human hulls.
The numbers in this battle are just staggering. 3,000 Korth ships, the absolute pride of their expansionist empire, cease to exist in 20 minutes.
Poof. Gone.
They don't just take damage, they are erased from the battlefield. The entire first Battle of Sol lasts exactly 37 minutes.
37 minutes. Let that sink in.
And the human casualties are less than 1%.
The psychological horror experienced by the Korth in those 37 minutes is crucial to understand here.
Because they've never lost before.
Never. There is a final transmission intercepted from the Korth High Command during the battle. As the Vanguard is being systematically dismantled, a Korth admiral simply says, "These are not human ships,"
Chilling.
right before his vessel disappears from the scopes. In less than an hour, the entire galaxy's perception flipped.
A complete 180.
Yeah, they went from watching a tragic slaughter to witnessing the terrifying birth of an apex predator.
These are not human ships, because they couldn't possibly comprehend that the sleepy little farming species they ignored for millennia was capable of wielding the power of gods.
They couldn't compute it.
So the mask is completely off, the invading fleet is dust. But this puts humanity at a fascinating and incredibly dangerous crossroads.
It really does.
They have absolute power, and they've just proven they can use it. So how do they retaliate against the Korth Dominion without becoming the exact monsters they spent 500 years swearing they wouldn't be?
Right. And this is where the narrative shifts from a story about military tactics to a really profound exploration of restraint.
Yeah, the philosophy part.
As we discussed earlier, wielding power is relatively easy. But controlling it? especially when you have every justification for revenge, is incredibly difficult.
Especially after they threaten to wipe out Earth.
It's exactly. So President Marcus Hale broadcasts a message across all known frequencies to every civilization. He states, "We seek peace, but we will not tolerate aggression."
And naturally, nobody in the galaxy believes the peace part after watching them evaporate an armada in half an hour.
Of course not. They expect humanity to launch a campaign of total annihilation against the Korth homeworlds.
Which is what anyone else would do.
But when humanity launches their counterattack, they don't operate as conquerors. They operate as precision executioners.
The logistics of this counteroffensive are incredible to read about. Humanity's fleet pushes into Korth territory, but instead of glassing planets or orbital bombarding cities, which the Korth absolutely would have done to Earth.
In a heartbeat.
Right. Instead, they systematically dismantle only the military infrastructure.
Surgical strikes.
Exactly. Shipyards, gone. Weapons factories, erased. Military command bases, vanished. But the civilian populations, the cities, the agricultural hubs, they are left completely, 100% untouched.
It requires an unbelievable level of technological control and moral discipline to strike with that much power and perfectly avoid civilian casualties.
Which raises a really interesting strategic question that I wanted to run by you.
Sure.
Why does a surgical, bloodless for civilians precision strike against military targets send a vastly more terrifying message to the galaxy than, total chaotic annihilation?
That's a great question.
If you want to scare an empire into submission, wouldn't blowing up a moon make a bigger point?
It seems like it, right? But it's actually a profound psychological tactic. Yeah. Chaotic annihilation, like glassing a planet or blowing up a moon, it demonstrates brute force, sure, but it also implies a lack of control.
Like a wild animal.
Exactly. It shows that you are driven by anger, fear, or just a desperate need to show off. Precision, on the other hand, demonstrates absolute, unquestionable mastery.
You're showing them you don't need to throw a tantrum to win.
Exactly. It proves to the galaxy that humanity has the power to erase entire civilizations from existence effortlessly. But the truly terrifying part is that they possess the godlike discipline to choose exactly what survives.
Oh, that is chilling.
It strips away the enemy's narrative of dying as martyrs. It tells the Korth and the rest of the galaxy, we aren't destroying your cities because we can't. We're leaving you alive because we choose to. And we have the absolute control to change our minds at any second.
Wow. It leaves the Korth completely disarmed, but entirely aware of their own survival at humanity's whim.
It's the ultimate power move.
But the Korth Emperor, whose entire identity is built on dominance, he just cannot accept this.
His ego can't take it.
So he doubles down, completely desperate. He drains every remaining resource of his empire to gather the largest armada in the history of the galaxy for a final stand.
The last gasp.
Over 100,000 warships. He brings everything he has left against humanity's fleet of 3,000.
And, to any observer in the Galactic Union, the math still seems to heavily favor the Korth.
Sure, 100,000 to 3,000.
Right, that's overwhelming odds in conventional warfare.
But conventional math doesn't matter when you're fighting reality-bending technology. The final battle isn't even a war, it's a dismantling.
A total deconstruction.
It takes exactly 4 hours for humanity to completely shatter every strategy, every defense, and every weapon the Korth had left. The strongest, most feared empire of the last few millennia just utterly collapses.
And the Emperor formally surrenders.
And this brings us to the true climax of humanity's philosophical journey. It's what historians in the narrative call the Guardian's choice.
This is where the story elevates to a masterpiece.
The victory is absolute. Humanity has secured total, uncontested power. Every other civilization, the Varkhan, the Zalari, they are just waiting to be occupied.
Shaking in their boots.
Yeah, they are bracing for the new boss, assuming it's going to be exactly the same as the old boss, just with more terrifying ships.
A regime change.
But what humanity decides to do next completely redefines the trajectory of galactic history.
Instead of conquering, humanity withdraws.
Just steps back.
They step down from the imperial throne they just violently cleared. They significantly reduce their military operations. They return the bulk of their forces to the Sol system.
And then what?
And then they pivot entirely. They start sending out fleets to help rebuild the worlds damaged by the Korth.
Wow.
They share advanced medical technologies. They actively patrol borders to protect weaker species from piracy and exploitation.
It's a stunning pivot, and I want you listening right now to really think about this in the context of human nature. Think about a time in your own life where you suddenly had absolute leverage or power in a situation.
We've all been there on some level.
Right. Maybe it was a negotiation where you held all the cards, or a conflict where you had the undeniable winning evidence. Do you lead with dominance, pushing your advantage to the absolute limit just because you can?
Most people do.
Or do you lead with trust, knowing you have the power to crush the opposition but actively choosing cooperation instead? Because that's what humanity did on a galactic scale. The source text gives this amazing foundational quote for their new policy. Every empire eventually falls. Fear never creates peace. Trust does.
That line gives me goosebumps. And if we trace this ending all the way back to the discovery of the first civilization, we see the complete realization of humanity's arc.
The full circle.
Exactly. The first civilization died because their technological power vastly outpaced their moral wisdom. They built the ultimate weapons, but lacked the restraint to survive them.
They burn themselves out.
Humanity recognized that historical trap and actively broke the cycle. They proved that they valued historical wisdom over the immediate, intoxicating thrill of absolute power.
50 years after the fall of the Korth, the Galactic Union formally honors humanity. The exact same species they mocked and dismissed as primitive is now universally recognized as the guardians of the galaxy.
What a turnaround.
And there's this beautifully understated moment in the text where a young alien historian asks an elderly human veteran, "What changed? How did you go from sleeping for 3,000 years to this?"
I love this scene.
And the human veteran just smiles and says, "We woke up."
It's a perfect summation of their journey. Because the truth is, the potential, the intelligence, and the immense resilience, it was always there.
We were just waiting.
The galactic community just completely failed to see it because they were exclusively looking for traditional signs of aggression and expansion. When humanity finally awakened, it wasn't just a military awakening, it was a profound moral one.
Beautifully put.
And that is why the stars themselves learned not fear of humanity's cruelty, but a deep, abiding respect for their unstoppable capability combined with their flawless restraint.
What an incredible narrative arc. So to quickly recap the journey we've taken today, we started with the sleeping species, a humanity that was universally mocked and ignored.
The ultimate underdogs.
We explored the logistical and psychological nightmare of secretly studying reality-breaking technology for 5 centuries, terrified of repeating the fatal mistakes of the gods who came before us.
Holding a secret for 500 years.
Then we witnessed the ultimate mic drop moment of diplomacy with Ambassador Sarah Kane staring down a sun-blocking armada with a single word.
No.
We unpacked the jaw-dropping scale and physics of Protocol Awakening, where Martian terraforming hid city-sized dreadnoughts.
Apache helicopters at a jousting match.
Exactly. And finally, we dissected the surgical, terrifying precision that led to humanity's ultimate choice to serve and protect the galaxy rather than conquer it. True strength, as this story so brilliantly illustrates, is ultimately found in restraint, not just in firepower.
It's a deeply resonant reminder that the loudest, most aggressive entity in the room is rarely the most dangerous or the most enduring.
Absolutely. It really forces you to reconsider how we define power, patience, and the long game. And as we wrap up this deep dive into the source material, I want to leave you with one final lingering question to mull over on your own.
Oh, lay it on them.
Given everything we've explored about human nature, our actual history of conflict, and the incredibly intoxicating lure of absolute power, if humanity today, in our current real-world state, discovered ancient, reality-altering technology hidden under our oceans, would we truly have the collective discipline to study it in secret for 500 years?
That is the million-dollar question.
Or would our own impatience, pride, and division be the very thing that wipes us out before we ever reach the stars?
That is definitely something to think about the next time you feel underestimated or the next time you're tempted to show your entire hand.
Keep asking the big questions and keep looking for the truth beneath the surface. Catch you on the next deep dive.